I sat down a short time ago with Ukraine's ambassador to Australia, Vasyl Myroshnychenko. Ambassador, thanks for your time. How important was this visit to Ukraine by President Biden?
It was crucial. The way seeing American president visit Ukraine at this time, also at the time when Russians have started another assault on the country, was very important. Very important for Ukraine, for the Ukrainian people, but also it's very important for America and for Europe to see that transatlantic unity. The visit of the President Biden to Poland and then making a trip to Ukraine was huge. As you know, he visited Ukraine previously 6 times, but never in the capacity of a president. And last time we had a president, American president, was 15 years ago. And also, given all the support coming from America, it was a very strong message that he sent. It looks like Ukraine is unlocking long-range capabilities and platforms that we need to be able to inflict damage to the Russian stockpiles and to drive them completely out. But he was there. He was there with the people, having those meetings, and it was, global coverage, huge, and it was very strong. And the message that he said, look, we will be out there for Ukraine as long as it takes for us to win the war.
I'll ask you about those long-range missiles in a moment, but just on the visit, it's happened, the timing, the symbolism also so huge, isn't it, in the week that we mark 1 year since the Russian invasion?
Yeah, absolutely. 1 year since full-scale Russian invasion. This war has been going on for 9 years, but for the past year, that was full-scale invasion. And making that trip was meant a lot for every Ukrainian and for the president. And so it's very symbolic, it's very strong, and I understand it must have been not easy from a security standpoint of view to organize, to pull it off. But I think it demonstrates American courage. It demonstrates the courage and leadership of American president. That he's done, and he said, look, I want to come to Kyiv. He could have met President Zelensky on the border, he would come to Lviv, but he said, no, I want to make a point, I want to be in Kyiv.
President Zelensky made the case for those long-range weapons that you mentioned earlier. How important is that capability? How likely is it that it's going to be forthcoming from the US and NATO in the context of not just surviving, but actually defeating Russia?
Look, currently the capabilities we have is a range of about 70 kilometers. This is the range of the HIMARS, the multiple rocket launchers. However, the Russians have occupied 20% of the Ukrainian territory, and these capabilities do not allow us to hit the Russian troops further away than this distance. And they've already moved all they have beyond 70 kilometers, so they are using that to resupply their troops on the front lines. So these capabilities and these platforms are very important for us to drive Russians out of Ukraine. And the sooner we get those capabilities, the sooner we'll end the war, the sooner we'll defeat Russia on the battlefield. And that's the same, like air defense systems, originally, as you remember, it was difficult even to get anti-tank missiles, but they came. And also ammunition for artillery. I mean, this is something that President Biden has brought in with him, the ammunition and missiles, because they are spent in large quantities and large numbers.
One of the concerns has been from the US, apparently, that if Ukraine acquires those longer range missiles, then strikes deep in the heart of Russia will worsen the conflict or exacerbate things. What's your read on that?
Russians are destroying Ukraine completely. They're killing people, they're destroying civilian infrastructure, they're hitting targets throughout the country. For us to have this war end, we have to be able to hit Russian targets, to hit their military bases, to hit their stockpiles. And for that, we need the capabilities, even within the country. We're not interested in invading Moscow in any way. What we are interested in is expelling Russians completely, restoring our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, and respect for the UN Charter, which it should guarantee our inviolability of our borders. So this is all we care about. And we do need those new platforms to be able to inflict that damage to the Russians and drive them out completely.
President Biden said after his visit, or during the visit to Kyiv, he said, Putin thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. He thought he could outlast us. He's just been plain wrong. Is the US matching that rhetoric with additional and sufficient military support?
Absolutely. The support we are seeing from the US government is huge. We see it more coming, and it's what's also important that that support is also coming from the EU member states, from Britain, from other countries, including Australia. It's important that there is a unity out there, transatlantic unity, but also unity across the entire world. And I think Australian government has contributed to that, being as a NATO plus or NATO friends of NATO out there with us, because it's in the interest of Australia to make sure that we win this war.
He spoke about and you've touched on that, the NATO allies as well coming to the table. Is the European production and supply of ammunition keeping up with the demand from Ukraine?
This war has uncovered the vulnerabilities of the defense industry of the EU. And not only of the EU, but of the American vulnerabilities as well, because the resources which are needed for Ukraine are so huge. And the way defense industry works, that once you've supplied or manufactured a certain number of whatever had to be manufactured, the manufacturing is shut down. Because it's very highly regulated, and the way it's done, it's once you're done, you phase it out, right? And then all of a sudden, we've used all the javelins in Ukraine, and now to actually restart the production of javelins is just one of the examples. But the same applies to 155mm ammunition for the artillery. I mean, there's a huge demand for that on the global markets, and many countries are now actually restarting their production, but it's difficult to keep up with the pace of what the needs are in Ukraine.
It's difficult, so you need all hands on deck. What's your message to Australian policymakers, politicians in this place? What do you need?
My message is very simple. It's important that Australia carries on supporting Ukraine militarily, because at the end of the day, we must win it, because we are out there defending rules-based international order. We are out there defending democracy, human rights. We are out there demonstrating that a country which has strengths cannot change borders by force. And it's in the interest of Australia for us to win, because we already see the implications of this war here in the region, and we'll see more of that. And it's in the interest of Australia to cooperate with the European and American and Brits, and making sure that we win there, because we are there defending democracy. We're all fighting there for all of us.
Well, President Biden said 1 year later, Kyiv stands, Ukraine stands, democracy stands. How do you feel today as we speak, marking 1 year of this Russian invasion and war, about your country's future?
I feel positive. I feel very optimistic. And when I came here, I didn't know what was going to happen. And in a way, I've been here already 11 months, and I've seen it develop. I've seen bad days and good days for Ukraine. I was able to travel to Ukraine 4 times. But look, standing there, the democracy stands. It's not just an abstract word anymore for Ukrainians. It's now we are paying with our lives for that democracy. So this is the significance of that is huge. And I remain optimistic. I'm just an optimistic person. I believe that we will win. We'll have to rebuild the country, and there'll be many opportunities for Australia in Ukraine. And I look forward to developing those opportunities for business, for trade, for investors, for tourists as well. Every person I've met here said, "Oh, we want to come to Ukraine when the war is over." So I look forward to welcoming all those Australians who I met here throughout my 1 year now, but I hope I'll meet more as we go on, and then welcoming them to Kyiv, to Lviv, to Odessa, and other cities in Ukraine.
Let's hope that's sooner rather than later. Ukrainian Ambassador Vasyl Myroshnychenko, thank you as always. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kieran.